Hi, welcome to Manic Max. Today, I decided I'm going to be filming another video back to back. And Sarah has decided not to join us this time. Graham is going to be in the corner here occasionally. He's bashing a computer with a Thor hammer for reasons I do not know. But we're going to be talking about the top 5 best and the top 5 worst adult animated TV shows. And I spent the last week watching these to prepare for this. I did end up missing quite a few, so quick disclaimer, I have never seen an episode of Bob's Burgers, I've never seen an episode of Rick and Morty, never seen Archer, never seen Cleveland Show, never seen, no, what was the other one I was gonna say? And I've lost my train of thought. What's the other show now? It's gonna kill me the rest of the day. But I've never seen a couple of them, and no, I watched that one. I watched a couple of shows purely just so I could talk about them on this list. So I'm gonna start with the number 5 worst, and then we're gonna go to the number 5 best, and so on and so forth. So the number 5th worst adult animated TV show is Baby Blues, based off the Baby Blues comic strip. Which, I mean, Baby Blues is already a pretty, I guess you could say, kind of unpopular comic strip. I don't see a lot of people don't really talk about Baby Blues. I see people talk about Zitz, Hagar the Horrible, Peanuts, Garfield, Family Circus. Like, you see, and there's a ton of them like that you see people talking about. Sometimes even I see people talking about The Born Loser, but I hardly ever see people talk about Baby Blues. So why Baby Blues was so deserving of its own TV show in the 90s, I don't think that makes any sense. You watched you watched a couple episodes of that show with me?
Yeah.
What did you think of Baby Blues?
Oh, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty bad and pretty boring show.
Yeah, I found it really boring.
I think it ran on Adult Swim for a little while, and I don't know why out of every comic they could have adapted Adult Swim chose Baby Blues, but Baby Blues was unfunny, and the worst part of all, it was just pretty boring. So then we move on to the 5th best, which is Futurama. You saw the first episode.
Yeah.
What do you think of Futurama?
I saw it like 3 years ago, so what I have to say about it was pretty good from what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Bender being my favorite part?
Yeah, Bender was funny. I have 2 pop figures from the show. I have Zap and the Robot Devil. The Robot Devil. That's probably my favorite episode, honestly. That and then the Sludge Factory, the Slurm Factory. Those are probably my favorite episodes. No, wait. And then I remember the Titanic in Space episodes. There are a lot of really good episodes of Futurama. And the only reason it doesn't get to number 1 to any higher in my top 5 list is because it has a lot more annoying characters than some of the other shows. Like, I don't like Hermes and I don't like Amy. I find both characters pretty annoying. So I did not end up putting it there purely because of that. And then moving on to the number 4th worst, we have The Prince from 2021. This is a brand new show. Came out on July 29th or something like that. And it's pretty much a parody of all of Netflix's royal family shows, mocking the royal family in real life with Prince George, I believe, as the main character, who's a child in real life. I think that's who they're talking about. But the animation in this show is god awful. Okay, the animation is just terrible. And here's the thing I was really disappointed about with this show. I thought it was gonna be like Our Cartoon President, but for like England, because let's all face it, the royal family has so much they can make fun of. So why on earth they would go and make the prince and make it be like this is just disappointing. Because I expected there'd be a lot more laughs and stuff, but then you watch it and it's full of like poop jokes, and it's like the creator is a 50-something-year-old man. You made this is what you're spending your life doing.
Someone's out there is like 50 years old, directing awesome movies. He's directing cartoons that talk about poop.
Yep. Just randomly for no points. Now, don't get me wrong. The Prince is definitely worth at least one watch, because some of it is so crazy you have to see it to believe it, and there are a couple parts that are kind of funny, but sorry, but I can't, at the moment I can't even remember the parts I chuckled at. There was one really kind of harsh joke looking back on it, because I assume they probably started making it in January, so before Prince Philip died in April. And there's a joke, they open the show, and one of the first things they do is they have him he's like a wheezing zombie at the table, and it's like, guys, I know you probably did this before he died, but you couldn't go back and change that. He doesn't even appear in the episode again. You seriously couldn't take that out? It's ridiculous.
I'm sure they took out some of his scenes.
I mean, maybe.
Maybe that's why
it
he wasn't in the episode anymore.
Maybe. Then we got the fourth best, which is The Simpsons. Who can't talk about The Simpsons and have it? The earlier seasons 1 to like 8 are probably the best seasons of The Simpsons. Then seasons 11 and 12 are really good as well. And then season 20 had a ton of pretty good episodes too. But everything that comes out of The Simpsons now is pretty terrible. The only thing that people even really go to The Simpsons anymore every year to watch is the Treehouses of Horror.
Those are
because
awesome.
People love their Halloween parodies, and they do them pretty clever a lot of the time.
Yeah. But the newest one on the Toy Story one.
Yeah, they had a Toy Story parody as the opening of theirs. It was all like 3D animation, a new style of 3D animation.
I always loved 3D animation. I don't know why,
it was pretty cool. It was like about the toys going back against Bart to kill him because of all the pain and suffering he's caused them over the years, and it was pretty cool. They turned him into like a toy at the end, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the only reason The Simpsons doesn't get any closer is because I feel The Simpsons just really needs to end. Because it was really good. Like I said, seasons 1 to 8 are the best seasons of The Simpsons. The best episodes of the show you will find there. But
the show is
there are some occasional really good episodes, like Dial N for Nerder. I really liked the pilot, the series pilot for season pilot for season 20. I thought that was a pretty good episode where Homer and Ned are bounty hunters. That was a really good episode. But all in all, Simpsons hasn't had a really great episode since season 20, which was 12 years ago. So let's just end it, shall we?
Simpsons is still good. It's just not the way it used to be.
It's never going to be the way it used to be. And it's disappointing, honestly. But like I said, The Simpsons still is one of the best. So if you haven't watched The Simpsons, I don't know what you're doing, and you need to go watch that. And for the number 3rd worst, we have Housebroken, another TV show that came out this year. It's pretty much like this. What if The Secret Life of Pets had adult humor and they ran a self-help group together? So the first episode, the main dog, who's voiced by god-awful Lisa Kudrow, and she's the worst. She's trying to replace the one dog's seat on in the self-help group because the dog recently died, and the dog was her best friend and stuff. And they're giving us all this stuff, but it's like, we don't know who the dog was. Like, they started it off in a really weird place. Like, I don't understand how I'm supposed to feel about this dog being dead, purely because they don't tell us anything about the character. They said Lisa Kudrow's dog has a dream in one scene where she's like a murdog or whatever, and for some reason her friend Big Cookie was the dog's name, just floats off into the sky in a car and is dead. I don't understand it, and I don't understand how I'm supposed to feel, because they don't tell you anything. We don't see how the group was with Big Cookie. We just cut to immediately after the dog's death. In fact, so quickly after the dog's death that in one of the scenes we actually see the family who owned the dog burying the dog's collar in the backyard. So that we literally started off like maybe 5 minutes after Big Cookie died.
Alright, no. No. If it'd be around an hour after Big Cookie died, because they'd have to take him to like they'd have to take Big Cookie to like someplace and then like have him get like cremated or something like that. And then they'd have to drive back to their house, and then they'd have to bury his collar.
Which means though that this girl, the main dog, I think her name was Honey, must really have hated her best friend, because she's trying to replace her like an hour after she died.
She's dead now? Hey guys, you guys want my little cookie?
No, it's a Diablo is the dog they're trying to bring in.
Little cookie. That's a big cookie.
There was a really funny joke at one point with a cat where they're all going around introducing themselves to Diablo, and the one hamster, she goes to introduce herself, and she's mentioned, so I am currently mourning the loss of my boyfriend, and the fat cat no, it was the pig. The pig screams at her, yeah, she killed him and ate his face, and she's like, it was self-defense. And that was the funniest part of the whole episode. Then they keep bringing it back up, and the pig's like, hey, I live with a big Hollywood celebrity. Here's a hint. His last name's Ocean. He has 13 friends. He has 11 friends. He has 8 friends. All of those ones are women. And he's like, he was the best Batman. I'll give you a hint. It's George Clooney. And that wasn't funny. I knew immediately when he said Ocean that he was talking about George Clooney. Who wouldn't get that joke? And they just continue it for like half the episode, it feels like. But then you look and you realize you're in 4 minutes in the episode, and all this is happening. Don't watch this show. It's bad.
It doesn't sound that bad.
It's number 3, which I can't believe I put it at number 3 for the best, is Dilbert. Dilbert is how you adapt a comic to a TV show the right way. Dilbert it's such a good show. It's one of my favorite shows. It's a hilarious office comedy.
Anything
comics
that's
were
an
always
office
great.
comedy is great, in my opinion.
Like all the jokes, they are always hysterical, and you never really know what's gonna happen next in Dilbert, and that's what I love about it, because the characters, pretty much everyone in the show is played off as like some sort of idiot, other than Dilbert and Alice and Dogbert. It's Dogbert.
Pretty sure it was Dog. Okay.
But they're all played off as some big idiot who's always screwing stuff up like that. Like Wally, Loud Howard, pointy-haired boss, who's my favorite character. I love Larry Miller. He's always like the best part in a lot of the stuff he's in. Very underrated actor. But Dilbert has always been, like, I watched Baby Blues and Dilbert on the same night for the first time. I watched the first episodes of both those shows the same night.
And we knew which one was better.
And I instantly knew. Literally, immediately when we started Dilbert, you could tell Dilbert had better quality, it had better voice acting, it had better jokes, it had a better theme song. It was superior to Baby Blues in every single way. And it's
a lot better animation.
A lot better animation. The theme is, Dilbert's theme is among my favorite TV show themes as well.
Cat Dog's up there. Cat Dog.
Ow. So then we got, for the number 2 worst, Stephen Colbert's Tuning Out the News, which is awful. Tuning Out the News came out last year, and it's like a bunch of fake animated characters who were created for the show, so you don't got like Mickey Mouse or anything here, hosting a news show, and they're interviewing a ton of actual celebrities, but the celebrities aren't animated, they're actually there in real life. And I guess it's a pretty interesting enough idea. He does stuff like that on his own show, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, pretty often. So I guess that makes sense that he'd go into an actual show. But the thing is, every single character in this show is the absolute worst character imaginable. Every single one of them is awful, and I can't watch them. I watched an 8-minute episode, which is pretty kind of long because the episode's usually like 7 minutes. I watched that episode, and it felt like I spent 3 hours there sitting watching these terrible characters, and I couldn't stand it. Stephen Colbert has done some really funny stuff, some really good shows, and that was just it was just terrible, and I couldn't watch it. So then, for the second best, we have South Park. I have a bit of a confession to make. Okay, I never watched South Park fully until I went to do this list, and I watched 2 episodes from the first season, and I really liked them both. They were the volcano, in which they're going hunting up on a mountain, and then they find out the mountain's a volcano that's going to erupt and stuff. And then there's one where everyone has pink eye, but they're zombies instead. And I thought those episodes were really funny. I really enjoyed South Park. I like Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I watched That's My Bush. I got that show for my birthday, and I really liked it. I don't believe I finished it yet, but Trey Parker and Matt Stone have always been able to make me laugh with everything they've done. So the only reason I guess I hadn't been watching South Park until now is because I guess I thought the voices were pretty annoying, and don't get me wrong, the voices can get really annoying at points.
I forgot my mallet on my computer.
Okay. Bye. But the voices can get really annoying, but for the main part, every character is pretty funny. They have something pretty funny about them, and they're just really good characters. So real quick, before we get to the number ones, I want to give some quick honorable and dishonorable mentions. We've got 12 Ounce Mouse, which is, Phantom Strider has called this one of the laziest animated shows he's ever seen. I think it's actually a pretty creative style to animate with, because he describes it as something that someone probably just took their kids' drawings in kindergarten or something and put it up like, okay, this is what we're gonna make a show out of. And I mean, yeah, I guess that could have happened with judging by the animation, but it's 12 Ounce Mouse. I can't tell if I like it or I hate it, because some of it's really stupid, but it's really funny too. So I don't know. It deserves its like 6.5 it has on IMDb. So I don't know. Then we got The Animated Adventures of Bob and Doug McKenzie, which only got 1 episode because it never got sold to anywhere, and it is awful. Graham bought a Strange Brew DVD a couple years ago, and that's a great movie. You should watch that one. And that show's episode was it was on the bonus features of the DVD, and it was terrible. It was just the worst. It has pretty ugly animation, and it's just overall really boring. But because it only got 1 episode and technically never even became a real show, I decided to leave it off the list. Then we got Spaceballs, the animated series, which, if you know me, you know Spaceballs is my favorite movie. Spaceballs, the animated series, is interesting because it's not Spaceballs, but it's an interesting way to how Spaceballs could have been continued. And the episode of the show I watched was actually it had some pretty kind of crazy parallels between that episode and COVID-19 in real life, because they mix E. coli or something and Ebola to make a super disease, Ebola or something, and they're trying to kill Lone Star with it, basically. But they end up shipping it out instead of not to Planet Moron, only to Planet Moron. So a lot of people end up getting sick and infected, and they need to get antibodies into people to fight the disease. And they all wear hazmat suits into the tents where they have the people and stuff. And this show came out in 2009, so literally a full 10 years before we started seeing the start of COVID-19. So kind of crazy how it I guess kind of predicted that, but but overall, the show has a couple of funny jokes, but nothing great, and that's why I left it off the list. Then Space Ghost Coast to Coast, I was pretty disappointed with. I was hoping it'd be a lot like Harvey Birdman. It was not. I just thought it was pretty boring. And then speaking of which, we got Harvey Birdman, which barely missed the cut to be my top 5 favorites, because Harvey Birdman's a really funny and interesting idea for a show. It's like a parody of Hanna-Barbera cartoons, basically, from the 60s and stuff, where Harvey Birdman is an attorney, and when these characters get into trouble, he tries to bail them out every single time, and it's funny to watch. And then we got The Great North, which a lot of people say is a ripoff of Bob's Burgers. I wouldn't know. I haven't seen Bob's Burgers, but I don't think it is. And The Great North also barely missed making my top 5 favorites. Great North was I thought it was really funny. There was the main character is voiced by Nick Offerman, and Nick Offerman's hilarious. He walks by an elevator in the mall in one scene in the first episode, and he sees that a sign that says elevator in progress, and he just responds and continues walking by saying, "Yep, we're all in progress till we die, elevator." And then it was a lot of the episode was really funny. Will Forte I actually liked in this, which is saying something because I don't usually like Will Forte, but it was pretty good. And then we got Family Guy, which I watched for the first time, so I could talk about on here, which also barely missed my top 5 favorites. There were a ton of really funny jokes in Family Guy, but overall I have to say the episode's plots were a lot weaker than that of the other shows I put on here, I think. So then now with that done, they're now on to the number ones, and the number 1 worst adult animated TV show is Lil Bush, President of the States. That's why. So basically, it's like, what if George W. Bush and all the people in his cabinet were babies? What if they were babies? And
Which they already were.
And they were babies. They did stuff as babies. They weren't president, but they were going to be president. They were babies. It was terrible, this show. I hated this show. I actually mentioned this to my dad when I got the That's My Bush DVD. And apparently he had seen Lil Bush, which I didn't even realize. I only found this out about this show because I was scrolling through Tim Meadows' IMDb page. And I found out he played Barack Obama in an episode of it. I don't know why. And I actually, ironically, later that day I would end up finding a DVD of this at my favorite store that I was at. So I did not consider buying it even for a second because I had watched an episode on YouTube already and it was awful. So
it was the episode that got banned.
It was like a banned episode of the show about Walter Reed, where they're trying to do something for the veterans of the Iraq War or something, and it's really I feel like it's kind of insensitive to the veterans and people who died in the war. But overall, Lil Bush isn't funny. It's not interesting. I hated every single character, and just don't watch it because there was no reason for this to be made. And the number 1 best adult animated TV show of all time is Stephen Colbert's Our Cartoon President. Please do not turn off the video yet. Let me explain. Okay, I really like. That's fair. I really like political comedy, and I liked when someone can make fun of Democrats and Republicans, can make fun of everyone. And Stephen Colbert manages to do that in Our Cartoon President, all the while making the show funny and insightful onto what's happening in real life and what has happened. And I haven't actually seen a single episode of the show I actually hated. There were a couple characters whose voices really got on my nerves, like Jared Kushner got really on my nerves at points, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she really got on my nerves too. And then there were characters who grew on me after time on the show, like Stephen Miller. And while I don't like any of those people in real life, I do have to say they all have some pretty funny moments on the show. So that's my list, and I hope you enjoyed. If Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.